All right, what's up, guys? We're live, 153rd installment. We're going to be talking about some skills that young men need to learn. I was having a conversation today with a good buddy of mine. He's got a late teen, and he was, we're chopping it up. He's asking some questions around the space, and I jotted down some notes on my phone, so I thought it'd be a good opportunity to share some of these ideas in podcast format. Again, this is just something I'm building on. The original book, just over my shoulder, the Unplugged Alpha. It's in its second edition. There's another version coming out very soon too. I've been writing like crazy, and some of the stuff, by the way, I'm just putting out on my X feed because they have an article option now, so I can publish like chapters as essays or as articles. So you'll find some of the stuff over there. It's actually been quite fun. Let's get started. I hope you guys enjoyed Ladies' Night last night. Judging by the views in the comments, you guys had a good time. Moff held the fort down, went well, it looks like. So do me a solid as you guys are coming in, just hit the like button, helps me out with the algorithms. And let me just dig into my notes over here. There'll be an opportunity for you guys to call in and ask any questions for those of you that want to do some Q&A, which I'll get to after I get off my soapbox and finish my monologue. Let me grab the actually I'll drop the call-in link in a little bit. How's my audio? Is it coming in loud and clear? Yeah. Looks like the meters are showing meters as they're supposed to. All right, let's get started here then, shall we? All right, first things first. So, I titled this 12 skills. I'm probably going to give you a few more than that. But this is going to apply to all guys, if I'm being honest. Ideally, start younger. The younger you start, the better off you're going to be. The further ahead in life, you're going to get. It's always wise to, one of the things that I never really understood as a younger man is how fast time flies. I'm a product of the 70s. I've been on this planet for a while. There's probably more life behind me than what I got ahead of me. So I'm trying to share this, to you guys with, a little bit of wisdom and some love. So just sort of bear with me as I sort of rip through these over here with you. And, feel free in the comments, let me know what's up if you got any questions or clarifiers on it. So let's start with some of the skills first. I'll get to the resources in a minute, but I want to start with skills. The absolute, probably most important skill that you want to develop as early as possible, and this begins with parenting, I think, if I can be honest, is problem-solving skills. I never really talked to my dad about this, but there was always this underlying need to have a conversation with me. It didn't matter if we were finishing the basement, putting up drywall, running electrical, playing chess, memory games with cards, stuff like that. He'd always say things like, well, how do you think you should solve this problem? Or along, some line like that. And if I'm being honest, as I kind of went through my 20s, I didn't really practice that much. When I was a kid, I played a lot of chess. I joined the chess club when I was, in elementary school. It was something to do, and I enjoyed it, and I was good at it. I like the strategy element of it, the combat element of it. The ability to sort of move pieces around a board, because no two games are alike. Like there's no two moments in life, I think, that are the same. And the sooner that you get used to thinking outside of the box, which is hard to do because society, culture, everything out there is trying to teach you to conform, wants you to cross T's, dot I's, color within the lines. Geography class in school, it was all about coloring, within the lines. They give you a map, and on the land masses, you would color in green. On the water part, you'd color in, blue, sort of thing. And they had you doing that at a very young age. I don't know if they still do that in schools today, but they don't really encourage outside of the box thinking. They don't encourage ignoring the box and thinking beyond just those boundaries. I think if anything, today still we're trying to convince boys to be as compliant, as agreeable as possible. Like the whole scamdemic thing we dealt with a few years ago was a giant test. It was a giant shit test. It was really there to see what you were made of and whether or not you could, look at a critical issue, a chaotic issue, and say to yourself, hang on a second, let me look at the data. How many people are being infected by this? How many people are not surviving it? what are the outcomes of all this, and asking some questions. And I don't think we ask enough questions. I don't think we challenge things anymore. You know, a lot of the times they try to quash it in the name of anything. You know, it could be a phobia, an ism, or whatever, you know, whether it's Islamophobia or racism or something or another. You know, asking a legitimate question should be a reasonable thing, you know, for us to do today still, but they try to get you to shut up. But that doesn't stop you from trying to solve problems. I think as a guy, we do better working with our hands, if I'm being honest, and studying and reading and sitting in classrooms and stuff like that. I do enjoy documentaries. I do, you know, still like to listen to some books from time to time. But I think some of the best problem solving skills that I developed, and this translates into entrepreneurship too. Like, this is one of the core tenets that I talk about in my course, the School of Entrepreneurship. Let me put the banner up because I keep forgetting to do this at the start of the show. But the School of Entrepreneurship is now available in the School of Unplugging. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But one of the core tenets of success, and the friend of mine that I was having this conversation with about his son is also an entrepreneur. He also believes that the most important skill you need to develop if you want to make money, if you want to have an impact, if you want to be able to build a business and do things more specific to entrepreneurship, is being able to solve problems, because that's all running a business is. It's a constant flurry of things coming at you from all different directions that are problems in your life. How do I solve this? How do I do that? Like, even with what I do today, creating content, whether it's in my car, sitting here in my office doing, you know, like a podcast, chopping it up with Moff, or doing a ladies' night show, a lot of it is just like looking at issues and then figuring out a way to remedy them. You can go too far with it, if I'm being honest. You know, a lot of the times when women have an issue, they don't necessarily want a solution to it. They just kind of want to be listened to. So solving their problems probably isn't an ideal use of those skills or resources. But I think within your own life, the fundamental starting point for guys, start as young as possible, especially in your 20s, not 20s and 30s, whatever. Figure out how to solve problems, because everything that you want is on the other side of a problem. It truly is. You want more money, it's on the other side of problems. You want more women, it's on the other side of problems. You want to be able to travel more, on the other side of problems, right? The question is how bad do you want it? Because if you want it bad enough, you're going to find a way to solve the problem. If you don't want it bad enough, then you'll find an excuse as to why you didn't solve the problem. All that it boils down to. So the first thing that I want to start out with, and I can move past it now, is just solving problems, getting really good at solving problems. And if you're a parent, you got a young kid, start with something like Connect 4. Very easy game. They're under the age of 5. Very straightforward. Just get 4 checkers pieces in a row off this vertical axis thing, and, you know, like, you win the game. Older than 4 or 5, you can start teaching them chess. There's no reason why you should be one of these loser parents that takes their kids to a restaurant, sits them down, gives a kid a screen and some Bluetooth earbuds, and the kid just sits there and stares at a screen, watching some cartoon entertainment or some nonsense. And, you know, we wonder why. Like, when I was a kid, there was no autistic kids. You know, when I was a kid, there was no, you know, like, attention deficit kids. There was no kids on Ritalin or any of those things. You just got on with it, right? Because kids were just taught, you know, to deal with these freaking things. Now it's like we put them on these isms and spectrums and all this sort of stuff. Learn how to solve problems. Be a good problem solver in any area of your life. That's what the Unplugged Alpha does. Let me move on. So the next skill would be making money, because whether you love it, hate it, dislike it, don't have a relationship with it, having access to money gives you access to options. This is important. It's important for a variety of reasons. You have health issues, money can solve it. You need to talk to somebody, money can solve it. You want to improve your housing situation, money can solve it. You're a fan of fast cars like I am, money can solve it. You know, I often joke with my friends when we do rallies, it's like, we're just boys. We just bought more expensive toys now. That's all we are. We're just young boys that have more money, and we're old and shit, and we have, you know, the ability and time to go and enjoy those things. So, you know, making money allows you to enjoy aspects and areas of life. A lot of people, I've talked about this before. They'll do things and complain like, "Oh, money's the root of all evil. It's the worst thing ever." Health and family or religion or something is more important. And sure, those things matter, but I'd rather be rich with all those things than broke with all those things. And I've been both, and it's far easier and more fun and more enjoyable in life to have access to financial resources, whether that's in cryptocurrency and precious metals. It doesn't have to be like the US dollar or a euro dollar or a Canadian dollar or anything like that. It just has to be having access to value that can be traded, because that's all money is. Money is just a store of value. Money thousands of years ago was tulips. Prior to that, it was shells. It was, money's been precious metals. Money's been many things throughout history. It's funny because when you watch like the Michael Saylor videos, when he's talking about Bitcoin, it's like he talks about it being, for the first time in history, us having perfect money, like the perfect form of money. And I think he's correct. So money's been many different things in many different times in history. But the point that I'm making is having some amount of stored value that you can exchange for things. That's all that money is. And I've said this before, and this pisses off some people. I don't give a fuck. But you should aim to be a millionaire by the time you're 30. So if you're a young man in your 20s, I don't believe there's any reason, especially if you live in the West, in a first world country, I don't believe there's any reason why you can't acquire $1 million worth of value that you can barter. Again, it could be Bitcoin, could be some form of crypto, it could be cash, it could be whatever. There's no reason why you can't acquire that by the time you're 30. If in your 30s, hit it by the time you're 40. Don't put off the importance and the significance of it because some loser out there told you that you don't need it, or that it's the root of all evil, or that it's none of those things. It's inert. It is. It's inert. It's not good. It's not evil. It's what you do with it that matters. You can do good with it. You can also do evil with it. There's many different components of the concept of it, but it is a skill if you're a young man. Like if I was talking to a 19-year-old boy and he's like, "Give me your best advice." First thing, learn how to solve problems. Second thing, make bank. And I talk about the different ways to make life-changing wealth. There's an entire module in the School of Unplugging. I get into it in depth. The main areas are C-suite jobs, licensed professionals like doctors, lawyers, things like that, surgeons, anybody with a audience that they control, actors, musicians, influencers, YouTube creators, whatever it happens to be, selling high-end items, yachts, jet planes, expensive cars, because you get paid a commission, expensive real estate, entrepreneurship. Obviously, I talk about that many times on my channel. And of course, in areas around STEM, science, technology, engineering, maths, guys that work for SpaceX are making bank. Guys that work as Google engineers are making bank. You get the point. Your JOB, your job, which is an acronym that stands for just over broke, probably ain't going to do it. It'll just keep you in this perpetual cycle of just making it enough to barely live enough. And in these days today, with super high inflation, which is a product of bad government and bad voting choices, which bring in shit government because people want free shit. They don't want to work for it. They don't want freedom. They want free shit. That's when you run into problems with money. I go to the grocery store and, I look at my bill and it's like, sometimes I'll pick up a handful of things I can put in one large bag and it's like $100, $130 or something like that. It's like, that hurts people. Even I noticed it, like, this shit costs like half as much a few years ago. Make money. Learn how to make serious life-changing money. Again, if you guys want to learn a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about, it's in the School of Unplugging, which is below, and I'll pin it below in the top pin comment after this video is done. It's live, so it lives there. It lives in the top of all my top pin comments. Next one I got here is developing strength, because being weak sucks. One of the predictors of absolute health and longevity as you get older is lean muscle mass. So this will be overlooked by a lot of people. They're going to pass on it. Doesn't really matter, blah, blah, blah. You get into your 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. And I know a guy that's almost 70 and he's in great shape. Developing strength and muscle tone on your body matters. The older you get, the more it's going to matter. Like when you get sick, and I've been sick various times in my life where you're basically lying on a hospital bed, had it for appendicitis. What else? You know, like anything that'll bring you, like a broken bone, you know, from like a skiing accident, you know, stuff like that. Your body is going to switch over and it's going to start to burn resources when you get sick. And if you have lean muscle mass, and you don't want an extreme amount of it because that's taxing on your organs, but developing strength matters as a young man because that's when you do it. You pay attention in your 20s and you get that squared away. It's a lot easier to do for the rest of your life. But if you're a 40-year-old guy and you're fat, you're shaped like a pear, you're kind of skinny fat, like thin up top, but wide around the waist sort of thing, that's a lot harder to fix. Developing strength and muscle tonality younger in life should be like, we used to encourage boys. There's black and white videos out there. You can go to YouTube and look them up, or you find them on social media where they show like teenage boys in high school from like the 40s or 50s. This is black and white. There's no fat kids. They're all lean. They're all strong. They all go through these obstacle courses. They can climb vertical walls, monkey bars, rings, do tons of push-ups in a row, chin-ups, all that sort of stuff. Today, we've lost that that gumption, you know, that push, that want. And you can't rely on society encouraging it anymore. You can't rely on this, you know, the school system to do it anymore because they really don't. There's no minimum standards to be set. So you have to set the standards for yourself. You know, you want to be recognized for your strength, your masculinity, your look, your appearance. You walk into a room, people will look at you, like they'll notice you. You know what I'm saying? It's that whole 1.62 golden ratio I talk about in my book, right? Your shoulders should be much more broad than your waist, but for the vast majority of guys today, they don't have the strength. They don't have the optics of masculinity. It's weak, which is why you have so many problems with society today, is weak men. Honestly, it's true. So we talked about solving problems, making bank, developing strength. The next one, which sort of ties into the most recent one in strength, is learning combat and weapons training. Pick your poison. What do you want to learn? You want to learn how to throw hands? Boxing, kickboxing. You want to learn how to deal with ground stuff? Jiu-jitsu. You like military stuff, weapons training? Sure, do that, right? You don't even need to join the military. Like I've done lots of weapons training now. You know, a lot of stuff that Moff puts out. I see him in the chat right now. Shout out to him. You know, that he puts together when we do the meetups for the guys in the community. We do a lot of stuff around testing ourselves. And some of the things that we do often is weapons training because I think that's an important skill to have. You all think it's safe and comfortable today until it isn't. And many times throughout history, things have changed. You know, the tides have changed and things weren't comfortable and safe. And you didn't have policing and you didn't have a military to protect your borders. Anything can happen. You cannot rely on other people to protect you, which is why I think every guy should learn some form of combat, hand combat, whatever it is, you know, is in your choosing, but also some form of weapons training. So you know how to deal with others with other objects. You know, it's you know, it's said by Steve Jobs once that when you take transport from A to B, whether you choose walking, running, however you want to maneuver, it's very interesting because there's a lot of energy that's expended to get from these points. But when you add a bicycle to the equation, the exponential magnifier of that is quite substantial, right? Like the amount of energy that you can put into pedals on a bike and the distance that you can travel for the energy that you put in is massive. So that's all that, you know, weapons training does. It just magnifies the basic skills and reaches out further. It's been said that it's always better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. Yeah, makes sense. I can move on from that. Networking is the next one that I have here. You know, as we were talking, me and my bud, about his son. A lot of guys today are isolated. Some of you even watching right now might be thinking to yourself, you know, isolated. I don't have a lot of friends. Maybe Discord servers, video gaming, stuff like that, which is fine. You know, I like playing games from time to time too. But are these guys going to be around if I need them? Am I able to reach out if I have a problem? I've said many times, you know, your network is your net worth. You could take the wealth of the richest people in the world, steal it from them, redistribute it evenly to everybody in that country or on the planet. And I think within 5 years or so, because of their network and their gumption and their know-how, that money will find its way back to the people that you stole it from. Networking is incredibly important. And I'll use an example. I've seen people do this before. I don't advise it because it's a lot of work, but giving up wealth, or if you take somebody and you transplant them from one place to another, if they have to go bankrupt or something like that, you can't steal somebody's network. Ideally, you know, if you have a solid network, you invest in it, you spend some time building it, sort of thing, you can't steal it. It's not possible. Reaching out to those that you know, like, and trust, that you have assisted and have assisted you in the past. That's a, you know, we used to call it a Rolodex back when I was younger. Obviously, you know, today now it's contacts and a phone. You know, which is interesting, because if we had like an EMP and hit and all the cell towers and all the networks went down, how would you reach a lot of the people in your network? If you thought about that too, right? So networking goes beyond just adding contacts in your phone. You have to have an in real life component, which is why we put such an emphasis on the meetups that we do in my community. Getting out, getting up off your couch, getting away from the screen, and going up and out and meeting with others and doing what it takes to engage, break bread together, have difficult conversations, be vulnerable, let others see you bleed, sort of thing. See what I'm saying here, right? It's incredibly important. I'll get to that super chat in just one second. Back to the skills. So we talked about networking. And I'm going to throw resilience out there as well. A lot of people, like, self-deletion is a lack of resilience, is what it is. Anti-fragility, I guess, is what it boils down to, is a skill that you need to learn is becoming anti-fragile. When chaos comes, as it does in life, comes in many forms. Comes in the test of the scamdemic that we had a few years ago. It can come in the form of shit tests from women on a basic level, a harder test, betrayal, divorce, you know, things like that. Making a bad business choice, investing in the wrong type of network or environment. So building resilience to chaos is really, really important. And that's exactly, like, the book is just called Antifragile. You can just go read the book and you'll get the full concept. Then we had a book club about a week or so ago in the School of Unplugging. That's one of the other elements that I've added to the School of Unplugging, is book club. So usually every month and a half to 2 months, I'll make a recommendation to a book. The book will be read by the group. We get up on a Zoom call together and we sort of chop up the ideas, and we spend a good hour or so, sometimes 90 minutes, just sort of diving down the rabbit hole. And the whole notion of resilience when chaos hits is incredibly important, because the last thing you want is to become weaker. Fragile, like, you know, I've got my little bowl here. I dropped this. I don't know what this is made of, ceramic or something, but if I were to drop this, it would just smash all over the floor. I'm not going to do that. It'll make a mess. But this is fragile. That's what happens when chaos hits something like this. It'll break. I think cell phones, especially at this time, are more robust, especially with an OtterBox on it. I could drop it. I've dropped this 100 times probably by now. I'm not going to do it now, but dropping a phone, it's pretty robust. It doesn't get worse. It doesn't get better. It just stays the same. Chaos, when thrown at you as a human being, should make you better. I want to say it again. It should make you better. You need to get to a point, and read the book Antifragile. I don't have the time nor the inclination to explain it all in detail. I literally just did the book club with the guys on the inside. So if you're on the outside, get on the inside, join the School of Unplugging. Getting yourself to a position where when chaos hits you, you become better. You make more money, you develop a better network, you become more influential, you develop more competency skills, you're more resolute, all of these sorts of things. They really do matter. They certainly do help. And if you want to enjoy life as a guy, these are some of the skills and resources that you need to acquire. Sitting on the fence, being a wallflower and watching others do it, as many still do today, is not the solution. You know, it's not the way to go about it. And the last skill that I dropped on here, which if I'm being perfectly honest, aside from basic farming, which would take, I mean, you can sow a seed, you won't be able to reap the crop for months down the road, maybe weeks in some scenarios, but in most cases, months. But acquiring food in the sense of like animal protein, aside from fishing, do you know how to hunt large game? I'm going to learn next week. I'm going to go on a hunt in Wisconsin with a couple of boys on the inside. One of the guys in the community has some land and some, he's got everything, you know, the bows, the arrows, all that sort of stuff. We're not even going to use rifles. We're going to use crossbows and bows for this. And I've taken the hunting course. I've watched in theory how to field dress an animal and clean it, all that sort of stuff. Never done it in real life. So hopefully next week I'll learn that experience firsthand, right? Which I think is a useful skill. And I think, I wish my dad did that, and or my granddad, did that, and they had the ability to teach me how to go and get my own animal protein. But that's just my family, right? There's some people that had that benefit younger. If you're a father or a granddad that has a son, I think it's one of the things that you should certainly teach them. Let me grab these super chats here before I go to some of these skills over here. Weaponry fitness. Hey, Rich, I train in all martial arts weapons. You're speaking facts. My life is physically, financially, and mentally peaking because of training. Yeah, absolutely. That's why I put on the list. And, thanks for the super chat. The vast majority of guys today wouldn't know what to do if the shit hit the fan. If the aliens come, if the zombie apocalypse comes, if Russia, China, whoever wants to invade, the vast majority of people are just fodder. I had this conversation once, because I have firearms. I'm a licensed firearm owner here in Canada. I keep them in a gun safe, and I have all the systems and processes down. But, one of the things you start to realize when you hang out with guys at gun ranges is one of the reasons why they have them is in case the shit hits the fan. And I've had this conversation where it's like, I'll talk to somebody and it's like, okay, well, what's your contingency plan if the shit hits the fan? It's like, oh, well, I know how to fish. Like, I can catch a fish. Well, that's great. But how do you protect your perimeter, right? Because that's one of the things you have to understand as a man. There's us versus them. There's us on the inside and there's them on the outside in hostile type of environments. And you can even call that today in a friendly environment, or you can call this friendly, outside today. But in a hostile type of scenario, again, the aliens, the zombie apocalypse, the Chinese invade, whatever it happens to be, if you don't have the skills, but you got, these people that are like, oh, well, I know how to fish, or I got all the toilet paper in the world, or I got canned goods, or I got loads of food, I got fresh water on my land, I got a well, I got food for, 90 days, 120 days. If you don't know how to defend yourself from the fucking bad guys out there, them, the us, all you're doing is storing that shit for them to take it from you. Am I right or am I wrong? Dispute it. Orange says, what are the main reasons women would ghost for weeks? Come back, ghost, come back, rinse, wash again. Who cares? Just believe her actions, man. The medium is the message. The reason why women ghost you and aren't responsive to you, bottom line boils down to you're not attractive enough. That is feedback from the universe. That is feedback from women basically saying you're shit. I hate to say it, but that's what it boils down to. Women are basically saying, I don't desire you enough, so I'm not going to talk to you for weeks, come back, and then ghost. They only come back when their other options don't pan out. That's why they come back. And then other options pan out, and then they ghost you again. So if that's your experience that you're having with women, that's because you're not attractive enough. Physical attraction, like a lot of these skills that I've just, listed off here, problem solving, making money, developing strength, learning combat, networking, getting outside, pushing yourself, building resilience, knowing how to acquire. These are all attractive traits that women desire, right? Physical attractiveness, the optics of masculinity, strength, broad shoulders, narrow waist, muscle, chiseled jawline, a clean look are important, not just for health metrics, but for attraction metrics, right? Like the whole reason why you're on the planet, guys, is to scatter seed, right? Women, that's it. Reproduce, have women, bunch of babies, blah, blah, blah. So if women aren't responsive to you, it's because you're not attractive. And I can't tell you, why specifically or not. Call in, I'll drop the call in link in a little bit. You can call in, we can chop it up, we can have a conversation about it. But all of the elements that I'm talking about here on a very surface level that me and my buddy were chopping up about his son the other day, they're all in elements of the School of Unplugging below. The whole reason why Moff and I put this fucking thing together is because we keep getting questions like these are the frequently asked questions, right? How do I create life-changing wealth? How do I develop a strong masculine frame? Talk to me about style. How do I, how do I get clothing that fits me, sort of thing. How do I get clothing that looks good in photography so that when I try to attract women with influence or, social media or dating apps, I actually get a response, a positive response that's in my favor. So I don't have to fucking bend over backwards or I end up matching with twos or something like that. You know what I'm saying? It's all in the school of unplugging, everything. There's over 50 hours worth of shit there. And I do weekly Zoom calls, with guys asking questions. Like some of the conversations get really deep. Let me move on to resources. Before I do that, I'm going to grab the call-in link because I know some of you guys like to call in right at the last second. Call in and ask a Q. So I'm going to drop this in the live chat. I'll put it in the YouTube because I can pin that at the top so it always lives there, and I'll put it in all chat. Call in and ask a Q. And I'll put it in all chat. So you can just click that and you can wait in the green room and I'll pull you guys in when I'm done this. All right. So we talked about skills. A lot of the resources that I want to get to here that every man must develop are, of course, going to tie into some of the skills that I mentioned earlier. So resources are things that you acquire, that you have in possession. Skills they're non-tangible, right? It's just something you have in you. Like you have a network, you have people that respond to you. You know how to make money. You know how to acquire food. You know how to solve problems. Skills are different from resources. Resources are different from skills. The next batch that I want to talk to you guys about are the actual resource component, the things that you must acquire. We already talked about money and wealth, so I'm not going to beat on that too much. But that is obviously meaningful for reasons I've already covered. Status. So what is status? Status is having the ability to have a conversation and have people listen to you, maybe like I am right now. Like we do on the other shows that we host. When I have an in real life event and guys put money where their mouth is and they buy a plane ticket and they fly out and they meet in a group and we have a conversation and there's chopping up back and forth and there's a leadership component. Status is something that you acquire. Status isn't so much a physical thing that you can touch, but it's something that, you have status if you are strong and masculine. We can use that as a very simple example. You walk into a room and people notice you. Men look at you and they're like, oh, you could be a threat. Or, oh, I want to know what that guy's about. I want to see what his network looks like. I want to see what his skills are. Who is that guy? And why does he walk in with so much confidence? And the same thing with chicks too. Like women will see a guy when he walks in a room and they'll notice him when there's status. You can display status with your clothing, with your style. The appearance of power is something that you can certainly portray. That is shown with status. Status is also something that can be demonstrated, as a point of influence. Having a competent and useful social media presence, is hokey as that might sound to some people. If you have a verified badge and a large following on social media, that conveys a level of status, because people that don't have status are insignificant. They're invisible. They don't have the following. That's all that following is on social media. Following count is just an indication of status. I might have more status than other men. There's lots of men out there that have more status than me. But status can be measured in such a way. Prestige is another really important one too that you have to acquire. This is a resource that goes back in time. Do I have the book up? No, I don't have the appearance of power here, but prestige is something that is closely related to status, networking, a lot of these other things where omnipotence, if I can put it that way. If you guys know what omnipotence means, it's years ago when I was doing like loads and loads of coaching calls, when I first got started, I was talking to this guy and he had studied everything. He looked me up on LinkedIn, looked at my website and my debt settlement business, read the Toronto Star business section, the section where I was on the front page, and all that. He's like, you're omnipotent in the way that you sort of like, accomplish boom, 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 sort of thing like that. Prestige is, you don't really know it until other people recognize it and point to it, if I can put it that way. Like, you don't just go, oh, I'm prestigious or something. Like, sure, you can go out and lease a Bentley and say that you're prestigious, sort of thing. But I think the guy that drives an average car, that people recognize his prestige outside of his car or the watch that he might have on his wrist, like that's one reason why a lot of people, guys especially, will wear watches so they can signal, prestige on their wrist. You'll notice I almost never wear a watch. I think I have 2 or 3 watches. The most expensive one I have is one that a old business partner gave me years ago, as a Tag Heuer. That's one way that you can acquire resources and demonstrate that. The other way too, and it's very difficult. I mean, people don't know. You could have a guy walking down the street that could have $1 billion in Bitcoin on his ledger, and you wouldn't even know, right? But the way that he carries himself, and the way that he's networked, and the way that he's sort of like lived through his life, especially the older you get, you can kind of see it on guys. It's almost like you can sniff it out. I think women are better at it than what men are. I think women, especially in real life, have the ability to sniff out prestige better than guys can. That's why you don't generally need to signal that much to women. Like they kind of have a way of sizing you up, if you know what I mean. Talked about status, prestige, network, assets. Assets are very straightforward. I mean, assets don't have to be a house. They don't have to be your cars. They don't have to be your clothing. They don't have to be your jewelry. They don't have to be watches. Assets can be a number of things. You could be worth 9 figures. One of the stats that I saw the other day, I was watching his podcast. This guy was talking about exotic car owners. I think his name's Ed Boleyn, Vinwiki or something like that. And when he was selling Lamborghinis and McLarens and stuff like that, he was saying the vast majority of guys, they're basically broke. 80% of them can barely afford what they're driving. And then the podcast host that was talking to him said something along the lines of, he put up on the screen, and it's like the vast majority of multimillionaires out there, like guys that are worth 7 or 8 figures, for example, plus, don't even drive expensive cars or exotic cars. They drive Toyotas, Hondas, and stuff like that. And the argument behind that is like the vast majority of those guys are actually quite a bit older. They're probably over 60. Like, there's more millionaires over 60, obviously, than there are under 30. Just because the older you get, you kind of acquire more shit. But they don't signal it overtly out in public. For a lot of them, it's an unknown thing. And I'm more impressed by a 30-year-old that paid cash for their Lambo than the 30-year-old that has like 4 exotics and they're all leased to the hilts, right? Or they're financed at 8% or some shit like that. And they put like 10 grand down on each car, but they're financing $1,500 a month because they've got some cash flow. The acquisition of assets creates leverage, is what it boils down to, right? Like, you can leverage all these things. You can sell them. You can borrow against them. One of the things people don't really understand about Bitcoin as an asset class is, as time goes on and more money flows into the market capitalization of it, it becomes a more leverageable asset. You see Saylor talk about this often, where he calls it like digital real estate. And I think even to this day, I think for the most part, you can borrow against 50% at a pretty favorable rate of the value of Bitcoin today. So if Bitcoin's worth $100,000, let's say, you can borrow $50,000 against a Bitcoin that you hold. You just leverage against it, sort of thing. And that's almost invisible. You don't see that. So not all assets are always tangible in your hand that you can touch. The next resource, and people are going to get mad at this one, but I'm going to say it anyway, it's women. Being able to cultivate optionality with women is a very useful resource, because one of the biggest problems that guys have today when it comes to chicks is they get laden down by crappy women, because it's the first girl that touches his pee-pee. It's the girl with daddy issues, the girl with a colossal past of bad mistakes and silly decisions and choices and stuff like that. And, Moff and I talked about this when we did the closing of the first round of Ladies Night podcast. And it's like, somewhere between 5 to 10%, maybe less, of women that we've had on the show are even worth dating, let alone getting into a long-term relationship. Probably less than 5% of the gals that we've had on the show in the prior series, like the entire year that we ran it for, and we had anywhere from 3 to 5, 6 girls on per show. The vast majority of them aren't worth your time, but it's the guys that have cultivated women as a resource, cultivating the optionality when it comes to women, that get all the good women. You know, one of the complaints guys go is, where do I find, you know, like a good woman? It's like, you got to be a good man if you want good women. They're out there. There's not a lot of them out there. The vast majority of them aren't that good, or they've gone through life and made some bad choices, and guys are settling for leftovers, you know, essentially, like not ideal type of situations. And if you can cultivate optionality by developing all these other skills that I've talked about, again, the ways that you develop them are in detail explained in the School of Unplugging, then you have a far better experience. A lot of guys will try to zip over to Asia or Colombia or some other parts of the world, and that might temporarily increase your perceived sexual marketplace value. That might temporarily give you more feminine, slightly more agreeable women, but they all run off the same software. They all do. They're all hypergamous. They're all solipsistic. You know, there's really not a lot of accountability. They all work off the exact same software program. It's just slightly different versions of it. Is it update 2.1 or update 1.3? You know, you guys know what I'm talking about, the techie nerdy guys out there. But cultivating optionality as a resource with women is really, really important, because you don't settle for crap if you got options, if you got better options, and you don't give up options if you have options. You see what I'm saying? Next one I jotted down here is becoming visibly competent with social media, or sorry, not with, displayed on social media. A successful guy with resources and assets, a competency, skills, any one of these items can broadcast that, you know, a few hundred years, not even a few hundred years ago. I mean, like even prior to the advent of the internet and screens and social media apps, even prior to 2000, you couldn't do that on a vast scale. Today, you get guys like Andrew Tate, for example. I don't know how many followers he's got on all of his social media platforms. It's in the tens of millions now, obviously. But he can display competency, skills across the world very, very easily. Prior to the 2000s, you just, you know, your social network, people you work with, the church that you might attend, the areas you might frequent, the family events that you might like, that was the extent of your reach. Today, you can visibly display competence very easily on social media. You can show people that you know how to acquire food, show them that you know how to hunt. You post a picture of your hunt. You can show people that you have a nice house, take pictures of the house, your pool, the backyard, all this sort of stuff. You can show people that you have assets, you have your cars or your watches or whatever, if that's your thing, right? Displayed via social media. So visible competence is something that you can spread. Like, your optionality increases dramatically around the world when you do that. I'm not that big of a deal, but I mean, I've had people from all corners of the world. The only continent I have not heard from yet is Antarctica. But from every other continent and just about every culture and, you know, ethnic group within those continents, I've heard from Australia, Africa, New Zealand, South America, Central America, all throughout Europe, Russia, Asia, probably not North Korea because they have a full block over there. But you get the idea, right? Like, you can display visible competence around the world and people will reach out to you, right? I've given people the rights to translate my content in different parts of the world because they've reached out to me, right? So, like, you get the idea, right? Which also kind of develops renown for yourself. Building out your sexual opportunities, your optionality with women, of course. What else do I got out here in the list? That's pretty much the crux of it. Yeah, I don't need to go down much more. There's more that I can spend time on. Where we're at, we're about 45 minutes in. Here, this is what I'll do. Let me grab the invite link again. I'll drop it in all chat. I'm going to run the ad reel so you can call in. There's already people waiting to ask a question. Call in and ask a Q. Boom. There's a StreamYard link. It's pinned to the top of YouTube. I'm going to run the ad reel, grab a quick drink, and start taking some call-ins from you guys. So whatever questions you guys want to, throw at me, chop up, let's do that. I'll be back in a minute and change. This episode is sponsored by richcooper.ca. Brothers, if you're like me and take what you put in your body seriously, you're going to want to use the Unplugged Alpha supplement line. An obsession with absorption is what sets this line apart from the others. You want to make sure that you absorb as much of the supplements as possible so you don't end up peeing out expensive urine. My supplement line is made in the United States from the highest quality domestic ingredients, and unlike cheap supplements from China in plastic bottles, mine ship in dark glass bottles to keep your supplements fresher, longer, and won't seep endocrine disrupting plastics into your supplements. Nothing is a hard tablet. Everything is in an easily digested, bioavailable capsule. You can filter all products by their various categories, including testosterone support, estrogen metabolism, fat burning, immune health, sleep support, and performance. Visit theunpluggedalpha.com/shop and use the subscribe and save option over here to get 10% off your supplement order, or use coupon code ALPHA10 for 10% off a one-time order to try it out. Men, if you want to know everything that I know today that I wish my dad taught me in my 20s, join the School of Unplugging. There are over 30 hours of lessons currently, a well-organized discussion board, and weekly Zoom calls held by experts with backgrounds in strength, nutrition, finance, investing, and entrepreneurship, all for one low monthly membership. Visit richcooper.ca and on the courses tab, hit the School of Unplugging and get started here. Guys, make sure you visit my website for my communities, requesting a private one-on-one consultation, or learning about my future events. And don't forget to opt into my email list over here to get my newsletter. Let's get on with the show. All right. Let's grab Jake over here. He's waiting to ask a question, it looks like, about sperm donation. Add to stage. You're going to have to turn on your mic, Jake. What's up? Jake, you got your mic muted. Just unmute it. Bottom of the screen. Just unmute yourself. No? Guys, it's a call-in segment. If you click the link, it's
shoot. Hey, dude, I'm so sorry.
There we go. Beautiful.
Hey, Rich, how's it going, man? Hope you're doing well.
Thank you. Okay, so your question, sperm donation. What is?
Yes, sir. Can you read the question that I put in, or you want me to say it on audio?
Yeah, just say it out loud or read it out if you want.
Yeah, so I had a little bit of a F it, we've all kind of moment and applied to a sperm bank just to kind of see like if I get approved. It seems like most guys don't.
Okay.
And I have essentially gone through like 3/4 of the process. I haven't done like the genetic screening, but it's serious now. Like I seriously could get approved for it. And it seems like pros are, inconsequential, but I do make some money up front, which is nice. I'm also ensuring that like my genetic lineage continues. And then on the other side, I'm not really concerned about, like, I know some people say, oh, you may get hooked for child support. Doesn't seem like that would happen. But I get concerned about, having biological children raised by other people. And then also what would a potential, like a good woman, what would a potential future wife think? What would future kids that I raise think? Will I repel away some better, higher quality women when I find out that there's 30 or 40 of my kids running around the world? So what would you do?
What do they pay you for that, by the way?
It's per vial. So I think it would end up being reasonably 20 to 30 grand, probably.
20 to 30 grand?
Yeah.
How big is a vial?
Basically, I think you jerk off into a cup and they see how much sperm is in the semen, right? So it could be as little as like
20 grand per cup.
No. I think over like several months. That's during the entire duration. That's how much you'd make.
Okay. So
probably 300 to 1,000 per cup.
All right. Well, it's not insignificant. Are they selling this or are they giving it away?
It's sold. Because then on the other end of the market, there's there's people that can't have children, or maybe lesbians or whatever. They can't have children. They need sperm. All
right. So, okay. So this is a good question. Some people might be going, mocking this guy right now, but I think it's a fair question. A few years ago, I read this article. It popped up in my feed, and it was talking about sperm donors and sperm donation, and then it pointed to a Facebook group. And I dove down the rabbit hole. I'm like, this is very interesting. And then I saw some of the photographs of the people that were soliciting for donors. And let's just put it this way: they're not the kind of people that you would want to put your seed in. Okay.
Mm.
Very unattractive, out of shape, very broke, poor sort of thing. So that's one of the major downsides is you're basically planting your seed in generally shitty soil. Okay. Now, with what you're talking about, because they're paying you and then the outfit is selling it, I'm assuming what they do is they verify certain things: genetic background, STDs, height, hair color, whether or not you got hair on your head, what your education is, what you do for a living. Like, these are all things that you have to do.
Right. Yeah. So they've already done like the basic, what's my height, ethnicity, all those things. That's all
Yeah.
passed. I still need to go in person, make sure I don't carry any crazy genetic diseases.
Yeah.
But so far, it's been smooth sailing.
Okay. So the free sites, like the Facebook sites, that's the riffraff. You definitely don't want to do that. I would discourage anybody. Like, I would rather my seed die than to plant it in shitty soil like that, because that's basically where you're putting it. What you're talking about is probably 30, maybe early 40 boss girls that haven't had any luck finding a guy to commit to them, but they've got the financial resources. They can hire a nanny. They can maybe hire a surrogate, and they want the best genetic donor that they can get. I'm assuming that's you in the picture.
That is, yes.
Yeah. So, good looking guy, sort of thing. There's probably a picture that you have to give them, like, goes on file so the lady knows what you look like.
Right. I think it may be optional, but I do need to at least put in like a handful of pictures, and it's almost like a dating bio, but it's,
yeah. What are you doing it for? The money, or are you doing it for spreading seed?
Those were it was kind of a two-pronged thing, the both of those. Thankfully, I don't need 20 to 30 grand. It would be great. It's definitely not weighing it, but I think the more important part is the guarantee of spreading seed.
Yeah. I mean, there's no guarantee of that either, right? Because they usually freeze it. And you and I both know that frozen peas are a lot worse than fresh peas. When you go to a restaurant, like, you can definitely taste the difference. So a lot of the times they don't thaw properly. You don't get a good insemination. Some of them may not, work out at the end of the day. They don't stick. It's a costly procedure for a lot of these people. Like, I know somebody that spent $80,000 on a few rounds of in vitro, and they ended up with an autistic kid, at the end of it. I don't know if it was because of him or because of her. I mean, she was older. She was like 43 at the time or something like that.
Oh boy. Yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily guarantee that you're going to have a lineage of a bunch of good looking Jakes out there, around the world. I mean, look, man, it's one way to do it. For 20, 30 grand for a cup of jizz, I mean, if you can get it, take it. But I don't know that you're getting the best, and you're never going to know, right? Like, you don't know who they're selling your stuff to.
Right. Well, that was another concern that I had too. It
Whoever has the money.
It seems like now with DNA tests, it's pretty easy, not only for children to find me in 20 years, but also for the parents to just like search me out in 3 years, 5 years.
Yeah.
So I get concerned about the potential, consequences of that being public to my family, friends, social circle.
Potentially. I mean, you can be pretty certain that most women, like, if you're going to settle down with a chick and have kids, for example, I do it the conventional sort of way. You can be assured that she probably won't be happy knowing that you've got 30 other kids out there, or maybe one or two of them might come knocking on your door 5 or 10 years down the road. I don't think women generally enjoy that experience. Like, one of the things that women find incredibly embarrassing about a guy that has a mistress or a side piece or something like that is she comes around and knocks on your door and says, "Hey, Jake, guess what? I got one of your kids," and your girlfriend or your wife finds out about it. Like, that level of embarrassment is something that they just don't want to contend with. I'm not saying don't do it for that reason only, but I'm pretty sure women aren't going to be like, "Oh, I wish my current husband had donated sperm and 30 other women have his seed now," sort of thing. I don't know that that's something that women get excited about in that sense of regard. Right. So there's that potential downside. But if it's anonymous, if you're paid well for it, that means that you shouldn't be on the hook. If you want to be certain, grab the agreement and give it to a lawyer buy, a couple hours of his time, spend $1,000 and say, go through this agreement and let me know what the downside to this is. Like what are the potential consequences of me making this donation and casting my seed far and wide? Can any of these women come at me for child support later on down the road? Are they able to track me down, or am I completely anonymous? There's legalese that's written into contracts that isn't like easy for most people to understand. I mean, it's written in plain English so you can read it, but it's not that easy for you to sort of comprehend. So
Right.
there's obviously going to be a downside to it. Like, what's your main concern?
I think a primary concern is, while I have not done like a 23andMe a DNA test, both my parents have. So I was talking to someone at their team, and it seems like not only like people could purchase my sperm from the bank, have a child, and then do the 23andMe or whatever on the child and find my parents, and then actually be reaching out to my parents who are, conservative Christian. Like I just could see that being a complete mess. If I knew that I was going to be fully anonymous, at least until children were 18 and wanted to find me themselves, that's one thing. Finding me in 3 to 5 years, a little bit more uneasy, especially if, at that point I'm still single. Maybe I'm interested in doing the conventional route down the road. I know I'm not right now. I
think it's a stretch. It's a stretch, but it's a potential risk. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's something to be concerned about if you're, if you're worried about that. But I mean, I just don't like it from the angle of you don't know where your seed's going. Like, what if they stick it in a 44-year-old chick that has a geriatric pregnancy and all kinds of issues, and she's pumping out, kids that are not something that you'd be proud of. It's not your fault. It's not, the issue on your end. Like, keep in mind, a lot of the people that are paying a sperm bank for premium seeds are going to be people with money, right? Because if they're paying you that kind of dough, then they're selling it based on your genetics, what you look like, your lack of disease, your height, your education, your IQ. Who the hell knows, right? Like, they're selling it to the public based on, hey, come to our sperm bank because we're selling you the premium product, sort of thing. And the people that are buying the premium product are generally older with money.
Right. Yeah. So then that's going to be who I am essentially reproducing with without having sex with them. Yeah, that makes sense. 40
something, like late 30s, 40 something, maybe even 50 something year old women that can't get a guy to commit, but have money, can pay for a nanny, and will just go and pay $50,000-$100,000 to get it done through technology and spit out a kid or two.
Right.
So that's who it's probably going to be going to. On the free end of the scale, look, the free end of the scale is going to the bottom of the barrel. Like, I've seen it. I can't even show it on the screen because it's that bad. Like, Moss in the chat, he's, I've shared it with some of the guys in my inner circle, and it's not good, right? It's not what you would want to do. But on the other side of things, you're probably dealing with wealth and delay in their life and the pursuit of careers, and you don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, there you go. Words right from the guy that's seen it firsthand.
It's disgusting.
It is.
Yeah.
So you're probably not going to get the disgusting side of the scale, but you're probably going to get older, geriatric, problem pregnancies, maybe somewhere on the spectrum. You're not guaranteed like an army of fucking like champions, like a Spartan army.
It seems like you're almost kind of diluting potentially good genetics with a lot of.
Yeah. I mean, look, man, if you want to have a whole bunch of kids, make a shitload of money, become influential, and just knock up a whole bunch of women. Like, have a whole bunch of wives, or a bunch of girlfriends, and have, like, that's what the Tates have done. Like, they constantly publicly talk about having 50 sons or whatever. And they've already got a bunch of kids with a bunch of different women. There's if you're on my email list, I know most of you are, but it's somewhere along like the 12th or 13th or 15th video or something like that. There's almost a 90-minute conversation I have with Tristan Tate that's private, that I did on Zoom, that I recorded, that I put there, where he talks about how he sort of like has a bunch of kids with a bunch of different women. That would be a better way to do it than to donate sperm, because you just don't know what you're getting on the other end. You see what I'm saying?
Right. And you're handpicking that at that point too.
Yeah. You can handpick the mother, you can have control of it. You can influence the child's lives. You can help develop the children into what you want. Like, you can mold them to some degree. You don't have any control. All you're doing is you're basically waiving your rights to your seed, and they can go and do whatever they want with it.
Right. So, softball question for you. Where can I sign up for that email thing? Because I don't actually have that.
Here, let me put up the banner for that. It's
Was it the school?
No, it's entrepreneursincars.com/red-flags.
All right.
So if you're on my email list, you'll get a whole bunch of emails. It's somewhere in the middle of that. Like you'll get emails talking about how to boost testosterone, a whole bunch of other stuff. But there's one in there that I did with a private. So being my guys, if you're not on my email list, get it. You can get my chapter from the book for free. But there's a lot of useful, like I don't pump out shit emails. Like everything in that list, you're going to find some use. And if you don't, skip over it and wait for the next one. But it's where I make announcements for any offers, events, my community, if I'm doing a conference, anything like that. I don't like once you're on it, you'll get stuff that you need.
Gotcha.
Cool.
I think that's helpful. Yeah, still got definitely things to think about, but
yeah, I mean,
perspective.
If they're going to pay you that kind of money, I would definitely go to a lawyer and say, here's the agreement. What are the risks involved with this? And then sort of make a informed decision from there. But yeah, there's lots of behind the scenes stuff that I have. It's in the school community. It's on my email list. Don't just be a wallflower, watch stuff from the outside. Get on the inside, guys. Like you want to get an invite to my conference, you got to be in the community now. I'm not even selling it to the public.
Awesome.
All right, Jake.
Thank you, Rich.
Thanks, man. See you, bud.
All
right. All right. Let's do Brian over here. Brian, what's up, buddy?
Hey, what's up, Rich? How you doing?
Good. What do you got for me today?
Okay, I have a twofold question. I recently wrote an ebook. I'm diabetic and wasn't taking care of myself. Had a small stroke, luckily nothing major. But that encouraged me to write a book. I wrote a book called Sugar-Free Dessert, whatever. A guide to making sugar-free desserts. So I wrote the ebook and I got a lot of really good responses from it and people were buying. So I want to know, what steps do I take to market the ebook better on Kindle? And because I don't know anything, I know zilch about like digital marketing or the network. And I know you've sold a couple books before, and you're like my age. So I wanted to know, do you have any suggestions for that? I don't.
So when it comes to book publishing, if you're doing one-off, like is it a one-off or are you going to do like a series of books?
I'm just going to do a one-off now. I have some ideas. One idea, two ideas about how to follow up with this, but I want to get the book off the ground. Mm-hmm. I didn't know I was going to get this kind of response from it.
Yeah.
So I just want to do one now. Yeah.
It's not worth paying for marketing because like it's a $9 product. Like the most you can charge for a Kindle is $9.99. The average paperback, its price is based on the amount of content that's in it. So you're going to charge anywhere from $12 to $17. A hardback's a little bit more. So it doesn't make sense to pay for marketing.
Okay.
And what I've told guys, like if you want to get into writing, like becoming an author and publishing a series of books, my buddy Peter has a YouTube channel. Let me just pull it up real quick here on my other page, and I'll drop in the chat to kind of shout out to him. But he has a publishing sort of empire. He does really, really well with it. Let me just book. It's Motivated Publishers or something like that. Yeah, here it is. Driven Publishers. Okay, so
I can't see it. It's weird.
No, I'm going to drop it in the live chat. So this is his YouTube channel. Or if you're just listening, you don't want to look it up. It's look up Peter Holmquist, Driven Publishers. He's published thousands of books and makes a good deal of money on it. And what he does is he can show you how to publish a sequence of books. If you're doing a one-off, the only way to do it, I'm just being honest with you, dude, is to have an audience. If you have an audience that pays attention, like I won't have a problem selling another book when I publish another book because I have an audience, I have an email list, I run shows, I can talk about it when I do a video. Like you notice when my editor runs my in-car videos in the Entrepreneurs in Cars channel, he's always showing the book if I make reference to it, sort of thing. Yeah. So it's easier to sell a book when you already have an audience that's paying attention to what you're talking about. So for a one-off sort of thing, or even a two-offer, I wouldn't recommend it. If you're going to do it, you got to take it as a serious business. And there's a whole system you have to go through when you don't have the marketing channel or an audience already that exists to offer your product to, that you have to sort of develop within it. And, you know, Peter has a whole system with that. So you can check that out. That's in the live chat.
Okay, his name is what? Peter what? I'm sorry.
The name of the channel is Peter Holmquist. It's in the live chat, Driven Publishers. You can just search for that on YouTube.
Okay.
Okay.
That's it, man. Thank you much.
No problem. All right. Let's do one more. We got Wahlberger. What's up?
Hey, Rich, how you doing?
Good, man. What's going on?
Good. Just wanted to, since we're in that season, you can see the big ass tree behind me. Just wondering what your approach to the holidays is. Are we ever going to see Richard Cooper with a Santa hat on his head?
You know, Christmas is for kids the way that I see it. You know, it's for children. You know, people like to do the Secret Santa stuff, right? Like I grew up in a, you know, Christmas household. We'd have Christmas gifts and Santa, all those stories and sort of stuff like that. I'm not religious, but I think that, you know, Christmas is a great time for kids. And I think that you should let them indulge and let them have that fantasy and the fun and watch the Christmas shows and sit around and have the family moments. That's what it's for. It's for building those experiences and those moments. But there's parts of it that I don't like, you know, like the whole Secret Santa. It's just bullshit. Like let's put a thing together of 20, 50 bucks or whatever. And whatever the fuck it is you get ends up in a landfill in 30 days anyway. Or half the people don't even like what they get, sort of thing, right? Like my basement is full of toys and things that, you know, kids just don't use after they get bored of very, very quickly. So there's that element component of it. But sure, enjoy it. You know, Rudolph, the sled, the movies, Elf, enjoy it. You know, have fun, but make it about the kids and, you know, give them that experience. I think I'm not about putting on, I mean, I've been forced. I'm saying forced. I've put on the Santa costume before and done it for the kids and the ho 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 and all that sort of shit with the beard and glasses. You guys will laugh your ass off if you saw the photographs. You know, but I do that for the kids, you know, because they get a rise out of it.
I think I totally agree with you. And I think it's all about legacy. Like that's the thing with me is that I remember when I was a kid, my grandfather was a farmer, a rancher and real hardworking guy, but he was hilarious during Christmas. You know, he'd pile up all the presents underneath the tree at the farm with a big fire going next to it. And then he would put bows on his head as he distributed the presents, right? So he was running the show, but really funny wearing the bows on his head. He wouldn't do that other time. And then he would save all his presents till the end. So we would all have to sit there and watch him open his gifts. So pretty funny, right? But it's all about legacy, man. So I remember those memories so well, so pleasantly. I want to do the same for, you know, my kids, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's all about kids.
I don't wear like unique things to times of the year on videos for a reason, because I want them more evergreen. So if somebody pulls up a video 6 months from now and I'm wearing a Santa's hat, they may click off because it's relevant to a certain time of year sort of thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I try to keep my content more evergreen, which is why you don't usually see like Christmas decorations in the background anymore. I've done it before. Like I've had the elf on the shelf on my mic before. But I generally try to keep the stuff more evergreen. So that's why I run it that way.
Do you have some ladies trying to draw you out to Christmas markets everywhere, Rich?
Yeah. I mean, Christmas markets are great. You know, like women like them. I mean, my daughter likes them. So, you know, I'll do the Christmas markets.
Awesome. Well, good stuff, man. Just wanted to run that by see what the thoughts of Rich.
I go for the hot apple cider. It's got a little bit of booze in it, so it tastes good.
Oh, 100%. I co-sign on the hot apple cider. Delicious.
All right, man.
All right. Well, have a Merry Christmas on that, Rich.
You too. Take care. All right, guys. I'm going to wrap up on that note. Got to get a few things done. I'm going to mention again the School of Unplugging. It's below in the ticker. There's a ton of fantastic content in there. At the end of the month, we're going to do another price increase because we're adding some more content. I'm going to include the school, the Unplugged Alpha's Guide to Divorce, which is a very, very useful course to anybody that's in a marriage, living in a way that looks like marriage to the government, and they have to untie the knot. I put several hours of work into it with my lawyer, my family lawyer, reviewing the content. And there's about 3 or 4 hours of very useful stuff, sort of planning to make sure that, because it's hostile. I mean, if you're a dude, you're not going to do well. Like the thing that rang true to me that I was trying to minimize for most guys is if you have the penis and you go to family court, you're probably going to lose. So this helps to manage that risk and minimize it as much as possible. That's getting thrown into the School of Unplugging. All that we're doing with the School of Unplugging, guys, is just a membership. You join the membership. There's Zoom calls regularly. I'm on every week. Moff's on every week. We have a team of experts that deal with linting, writing, building out your social media like Instagram, strength training and conditioning and diet, how to make money in the crypto markets. And then there's, of course, the classroom area, which has all the recordings of all the really, really good stuff that you can watch anytime. It's basically like having a Netflix membership, but with stuff that's actually useful, right? Not brain dead stuff or woke crap that's going to sort of like indoctrinate you. So it's essentially everything that I wish that I would have had when I was a young man, that my dad would have sat me down and had a conversation with. A lot of you guys message, ask questions, and call in and have asked all of these things. And I can take 5 or 10 minutes, to sort of explain it. But like some of the modules are hours long, like the entire module that deals with, vetting a woman for wife stock or managing a long-term relationship. These are longer modules that go into extreme depth in areas and everything that you need to know. So if you like the content, you love the channel, you've had a good time this past year, you've gotten value out of it, and you want to show, some appreciation, get in the School of Unplugging before the end of the month. The price goes up, probably another $20 a month. Moff and I will, hash it out, but after December 31st, it's going to cost you more to be a member. You get in now as an existing member, you're locked in, you're grandfathered in. The School of Entrepreneurship's in there. The divorce course will be added by the end of the month. There's even more content that's being added. Usually every 60 to 90 days, got a book club call. You can participate in whatever you want to or whatever you don't want to. It's entirely up to you, but it's there. School of Unplugging, check it out. Get in before the end of the month. The price will be going up. And again, guys, for those of you that asked about my events, my conference and stuff like that, I'm not even going to offer them to the public anymore. They're only going to be offered to the insiders, so people that are already in the community. And I'm probably just going to keep it that way. Keeps it simple. Anyway, thanks for watching. You guys have an awesome day. We'll see you very, very soon. And check out Moff tomorrow. He's doing a Office Hours. Peace out.